Welcome to today's meeting of the Licensing and Protection Committee. I would like to make you aware that this meeting is being live streamed onto the Council's YouTube pages. The formal launch of the Council's live streaming of meetings will take place this October. As this is the first meeting of the Licensing Committee since the sad passing of Her Majesty the Queen, I would like to ask members to reflect upon and remember the life and reign of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who sadly passed away on 8th of September 2022. Would members now please stand for a minute's silence? You do that, I forgot me watch. Thank you. Please be seated. I would like to take this opportunity to outline a few housekeeping arrangements. If you wish to speak, please indicate that you wish to do so to the Chair or the Vice Chair. If you wish to speak, please press the middle button, which will turn red, and then again when you've finished. You will know that your microphone has gone on live, as it will light up red at the top. Also, please use your mics, as it will not be broadcast otherwise. Items 4 and 5 had appendices - reports which were marked to follow on the agenda. This has now been published and are available on the website and extranet, but you will also have it in writing, I presume. I would like to start the official business of the meeting. Apologies. Are there any apologies, Claire?
Apologies from Councillor Jordan, Terry and Boutel.
Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting. Are you all in agreement that I sign the minutes of the previous meeting which have been circulated, those being the 29th of June 2022? Thank you. I will now sign these minutes. Is there just one? I thank you. Number 2, members' interest. To receive from members declarations as to disclosable pecuniary, other than registrable and non-registrable interests in relation to any agenda item. I see there's nobody. Thank you very much. So we go to number 3, monitoring report on the delivery of the food law enforcement and health and safety service action plans. I would now like to invite Claudia Deeth and Kate Penn to introduce the monitoring report on the delivery of the food law enforcement and health and safety service action plans. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to provide a short update on the monitoring report. Both of the service plans were adopted at the last committee in June, and this report's just based on the first quarter and what we've done then. So in terms of food safety, we've been completing the inspection programme in line with the Food Standards Agency recovery plan. And we were really pleased that when we submitted the temperature check at the end of June, we were on target with phase 2 of the recovery plan, which means all of our highest risk businesses were inspected in terms of food hygiene. We've now moved on to the C category premises, which has got a much larger number in, and we're working through those and hopefully getting through the backlog, which basically in a normal year would have 300 to 400 premises to inspect, but because of COVID, we've actually got, I think it's around 700 or 800, and that's the number that's presented in the appendices, which is why it's a lot higher than usual, which means that we're just making sure that we're using the most efficient inspection processes, basically prioritising that so we can get through as many as possible. One thing that officers have noticed is that standards in businesses have declined, so some inspections are taking longer than they would usually, and I think this is because the inspection program was suspended and there hasn't been that sort of officer input in carrying out food hygiene inspections. But hopefully, as we get going again, that's going to keep improving. So our alternative enforcement strategy is still shown at red on the appendices. This is what we do with our lowest risk premises that aren't considered necessary to visit in person. We send them a questionnaire to do, and once we've got further through the backlog of actual inspections, we will then start picking up these alternative enforcement. We've then looking at our unplanned and reactive activities undertaken. In terms of like complaints and things, in this first quarter we've had less than anticipated, which is positive because that's allowed us to spend more time doing inspections. And the other thing that officers have been doing, which has been more reactive, is participating in the UK Health Security Agency, which was formerly Public Health England, their sampling studies, which are done across all councils in the country, and they pick a theme. This time it was hygiene in takeaway sandwich and salad bars. So we go out and do swab samples. They all get sent into the lab, and then if there are any anomalies in the results, we'll go back and follow up with the business with any guidance or anything that's necessary. So we've taken part in that study. We've also talked last time about food hygiene training. We've got our first classroom course booked in on the 20th of October. We're here in Pathfinder House. So hopefully, if we've got enough people, that will go ahead. So we're just kind of contacting anyone that's made an expression of doing in-person training to see if they want to book on, and hopefully they will. And that's getting that going again. In terms of health and safety, in the first quarter, most of our activity was support and advice given to event organisers through the Safety Advisory Group, which is an advisory body, and it gives advice to event organisers in the district to promote public safety. This can be a written advice, or it can be attendance at meetings or site visits. We've had a few quite large events in the district, such as Secret Garden Party, We Out Here Festival at Abbots Ripton, so they do take quite a lot of officer time, and that's why we've used the health and safety time to focus on those, because we've obviously large numbers of people attending. We want to keep everyone safe. In addition to that, there's been 10 accidents that we've investigated, and another small number of service requests, complaints from members of the public, things like skin piercing registrations that we've also dealt with as necessary with whatever, whether it's advice or whether it's more formal action. So yeah, as we're now getting to the end of quarter two, it's expected that we'll do some more targeted activities, including those that were on the work plan in the service plan, which was around inflatables, locking up bins, and that. So that's what we're going to move into doing now. So I can take any questions on those two items if that's.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jordan has asked regarding agenda item 3, 5.1.3, how much more officer time is being taken up with this process?
Yeah, so that was to do with the decline in standards. It's really difficult to put a number on it. It's a general observation that officers have said when they've been going out that inspections have taken longer. I'd have to look to see if there's anything we can do in terms of reporting, comparing previous inspection times to current ones, but I'm not sure if that's possible in our management system or not. But
thank you. Sorry, I've got a couple more comments. So item 5.1.6, Councillor Jordan has said recommended this is a good piece of work by the officers. And for Appendix 1 to 3, she's asking why are the predicted activity high? And then also Appendix 1, she also comments that the areas of red are concerning and what is being done to get them to amber and green.
Okay, so I think the question over the predicted activity being high is to do with the programmed inspections. Normally in a year we would only have a proportion of businesses due to be inspected, but because the program was suspended during COVID, we've got every business needs to be inspected, and that's why that number's really high, and that reflects what the Food Standards Agency have asked us to do within that first year since inspections restarted. So that's really why that is. I'm not sure if there's other numbers, proactive visits. Maybe that's one of the ones that's red and slightly higher, but that's, I think, based on what we potentially have done in the past when we haven't had the backlog in inspections.
Thank you.
I think it's worth saying, with respect to officer time, the report doesn't mention this, but this team has been badly affected by long-term serious illness as well. So I think the performance in this report, which I think is good, needs to be seen in that light as well. So I wanted to thank the officers for all the hard work they've done in trying to cover for their colleagues who are not available. I think the performance we're seeing is basically a result of the long tail of COVID, and I'm sure I have every confidence that we're going to get back on track.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor. Is there anybody else, member, wish to speak? Thank you. So we will move on to item 4. Scheme of delegation update, private hire driver licenses. I would like to invite Michelle Bishop, licensing manager, to introduce the report regarding proposed changes to the issue of dual licenses. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. So, number 4 on here, I'm going to talk about the private hire licenses. So currently we issue dual licenses for drivers, which has been a long-standing thing at HDC. Something which we've looked at and had feedback from the trade is that within a dual license, it allows them to do both hackney carriage and private hire work, which is not always suitable for companies that, for instance, do just contract work or school contracts or any type of contract. So in terms of private hire licensing, we've looked at it and said, okay, what we would like to do going forward is separate the two down. So we'll still continue with dual licenses. So, for instance, dual drivers will still be classed as either hackney carriage, private hire. They can do that type of work. But what we want to do is allow them to be private hire license holders only. So they would have to obviously have an operator license. They would only be able to drive a private hire vehicle, but they would be, as I say, a little bit more restricted. In terms of the safety checks, when I talk about things like medicals, safeguarding, DBS checks, DVLA, that would all still take place. Really, the main difference is the fact that the knowledge test that we currently run, we would scale that down slightly because, as I say, with a private hire driver, they won't be able to sit on a rank, so it will all be pre-booked journeys only, so they would know exactly where they're going. So there's parts of the knowledge test that we can remove, and that's kind of what, as I say, with feedback from the trade themselves, the operators, this is certainly something that's I think going to be beneficial to them, and I'd like us to be able to offer either option. So still continue with the dual, but also to introduce the private hire licenses only. So that sort of concludes my report. What I have done just before I conclude is obviously Appendix A. What I'm asking for is approval to update the current delegations, specifically line 3, which is obviously the determination of applications for private hire driver licenses within today's committee. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Is there any members of the committee who would like to say something? Yes, Andy.
Well, thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Is there a difference in cost for the license of whether it's a dual license or just a private hire?
No, so there would be no cost, no difference in cost at all, because it's still the same as I say, in effect checks that we need to take place. So there would be no difference.
Yes, please, Patrick.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so I'm just asking this question about the dual and private hire. So if one have got a private hire license, is also allowed to apply for dual.
No, so they would either have a dual license, which would allow them to be a Hackney carriage and private hire, so it allows them to do both parts, or they can apply just to be a private hire driver. Does that make so they would either be so a dual allows them to do, as I say, Hackney carriage and private hire, whereas just a private hire driver license allows them to be a private hire driver, work for an operator, and not be able to sit on a rank, if you like. So pre-booked journeys only.
Okay. Yeah, my question is based on what restrictions will be there, because I can see some breach of something here. I think in the long run, those who have got just private hire might breach that and do something different.
So in terms of, obviously, if they're just a private hire driver, as I say, they would have to be under a private hire operator. So as an authority, you have to have all three. So a private hire operator, a driver, and a vehicle all have to be from the same authority. So obviously, as part of checks that we do within licensing, we go out and carry out, for instance, private hire audits, operator audits. So we can be checking that they're actually working for that operator. And obviously they would need to report back to us if they change operators.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And likewise with their vehicle, if obviously that's seen on a taxi rank, then obviously that would get reported to us, and we would follow that up through our compliance enforcement action.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, Stephen.
Just adding to that, because this confused me with agenda item number 6. Although we've only recently been issuing dual license, there are some legacy licenses. So some people do have a private hire license only, don't they? And if you look at the list of suspensions, some of those people only have a Hackney license or a private hire license. So they are existing licenses in the district from the time before we used to only issue dual licenses. Is that true?
No, so you're referring to point number 6, did you say? The list is
No, the agenda item number 6 on suspensions. If you look at that list of suspensions, it has people listed as dual, Hackney, or private hire. So that suggested to me that there were different categorizations.
Yeah, so in terms of that list, just to be clear, so the dual is the dual drivers, the Hackney carriage and the private hire, that's vehicles.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry for the confusion. We can make
No.
that clear going forward. So yeah, no problem.
My misunderstanding. Thank you, Michelle.
No problem.
So I will ask the committee to approve the recommendations on page 23. And if you're happy to do so, and if you're all in agreement, will you give a show of hands, please? That is everybody. Thank you very much indeed. We come to Business and Planning Act number 5, pavement licenses. I would like again to invite Michelle Bishop, Licensing Manager, to introduce this report. This report was circulated separately to the rest of the agenda. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Chairman. So in terms of the pavement report and the pavement licence report, just to give you a little bit of background, so this was originally brought in during obviously the recovery from COVID under the Business and Planning Act 2020. Pavement licences obviously allows, should I say, not prohibits, allows businesses to put out tables and chairs nearby to their premises, outside the front, alongside, sort of adjacent to their premises. And as I say, as part of the COVID recovery, that's continued. Currently, it's due to expire on the 30th of September 2022. It's just been announced by Parliament that it's now been extended for another 12 months. So, in terms of the extension, will take us through till 2023. And I can say also that they are looking to make it a permanent function of the local authority. So historically, it's always been a highways function under the county council, and they're looking to obviously make some changes there. There's not really anything else I can tell you about the new legislation because it's not obviously out yet. But it's just to say, and really ask your permission for two things really. One is to continue with the current agreement that we have in place, which is that we don't make a fee for this application going forward, just until the 30th of September 2023, and then obviously under Appendix A, in association with this report, that the original delegation decision can be further extended as to what was initially requested. So that's kind of the pavement side of things. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Michelle. Is there any questions the committee would like to? Thank you, Andy.
All right. Just a quick question. How many pavement licenses have been issued within the district?
So currently we've got 11 in the district. Just trying to add my maths up there. Yeah, so we've currently got 11. Obviously, as I say, we'll sort of tentatively starting the renewal process and obviously waiting for further approval today to carry on with that. But again, anybody can apply, even if they've not currently got a license and they wish to apply for this year's license, then obviously that's available to do so going forward.
Yes, and
are these predominantly in the market towns, I guess? Is that right? Or what sort of geographical spread is it?
Yes, they are. There's quite an even spread, I'd have to say. There's quite a few. I mean, I can get you a clear breakdown. I haven't got one here now, but I can get you a breakdown and happy to send that to you after the meeting if that helps. I can ask for that to be circulated. Yeah, no problem. Happy
thank
to
you.
do that.
Thank you, Michelle. I think all the committee members would like that as well, if that's possible. Thank you very much.
Happy to do that.
Yes, please.
Are business owners aware that it's relatively easy and inexpensive to get a pavement license? Because as we're entering a cost of living crisis and an energy crisis, which is going to see lots of those businesses struggling. I mean, in November and December, there's not much use for pavement licenses there. But I think through the COVID pandemic, there's lots of, certainly in St Neots, lots of businesses only probably survived because of this scheme, because they're able to get pavement licenses. So it might be useful to encourage people, if it's not going to create a massive extra workload, if it would benefit the local economy. I think it sounds like a good idea to kind of promote it a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. Obviously, following today's hopeful approval of it, then yeah, happy to get some more publicity out there. It is on our website anyway, but happy to get out to the businesses and let them know. So yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Michelle.
Sorry, Jess, we have
Sorry.
a comment from Councillor Jordan regarding item 5, just regarding the Business and Planning Act. She says, with regards to HDC, this shows that HDC is being proactive, and just thank you for all your hard efforts with this. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'd ask members if they are happy to do so in all of this agreement recommendations and approve it. If not, we'll have to have a show of hands, but is everybody okay? Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. So I'll move on to number 6, suspension and revocation of hackney carriage and private hire licenses, decisions under delegated authority. I would like to invite again Michelle Bishop, licensing manager, to introduce this report. Please, in asking questions, please remember that we are in public session, so please keep questions of a general nature. If you require more detailed response, please request further information outside the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. In regards to this report, I'm going to hand to my colleague, Catherine Sandels, to go over this report with you.
Perfect. Thank you. So this report is for your information to show a list of suspensions, refusals and revocations that the Licence Department took between the 14th of July 2022 and the 8th of September 2022. So in this table, we have listed the outcome of each action taken. However, you may notice some outcomes still missing. This is due to them being within only a month ago that the action was taken. We currently have no outstanding decisions that are awaiting court. Thank you. And any questions?
Thank you. Yes, Stephen Ferguson.
How are the suspensions determined?
So it depends really on, it depends kind of what's occurred. Is there one particular one?
Is there like a tariff for these things, or is it done on a case by case basis? I mean, it's difficult without knowing any of the details. But the second one on the list, which is 9 DVLA points for a 2-month suspension, doesn't seem like a long suspension for a lot of points. That's all. But I don't understand any of the circumstances. So.
Yeah, it is. Majority of them are on a case by case. So we kind of look at the history of the driver and how the points occurred. And I do something called an SOR, so a report, and that gets referred to management. And I list all of what it ticks in the policy. And then that's also looking at legislation, and management will then take them factors in place, also looking at the history and the report of what done. So yeah, it does kind of depend on each case, really.
So one more, if it's okay with you, Chair. What does CLPD stand for? There's one says CLPD from police.
Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head.
So CLPD is common law police disclosure.
Thank you.
So, yeah, no, that's fine. No problem. So yeah, we do get those occasionally. I wouldn't say we get them as frequently, but obviously when we do get them, we'll act on those. And I think just going on from what Catherine said, in terms of the suspension, sometimes the vehicles, so the vehicle having a suspension on it due to the fact it's been involved in an accident, and obviously 9 times out of 10, the driver wants us to support them by suspending the vehicle, because obviously it's not safe for the public, but then that allows them to then get an insurance vehicle to carry on, obviously, with their business whilst their vehicle's being repaired. So.
Thank you very much, Michelle and Catherine. Is there any other questions or comments any other committee would like to make?
Just from Councillor Jordan again, just her comments with that. Regarding item 6, this gives a clear message that HDC takes offences seriously. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Claire. So I would ask the committee if they're happy to note this information. Thank you very much. With that, I declare the meeting to close. Thank you for your attendance. Please, can you remain silent until we confirm